Hey guys, it's Chris
and Nat.
Welcome back
to our channel.
Yeah. So you guys are in for a treat today. Today is gonna be a good video because we are talking about the Jeffrey Epstein conspiracy.
Dun, dun, dun.
Dun, dun, dun. So we were really excited to film this, to research this. Actually kind of scared, Natalie being more scared than anybody, because there's some like crazy stuff online and you don't know what you could click on. Like I know at one point she literally clicked on some like declassified, classified type of...
It was Wikipedia.
Oh. But seriously, like you be typing in something and then your secret agent or your FBI agent gets like... They get some type of like message and then they're like, oh, then there's a knock at your door. So a little bit about Jeffrey, his background. He was born in Brooklyn, New York in 1953 to Pauline and Seymour Epstein. Jeffrey had a younger brother, Mark, and growing up they were like lower middle class. They were of a working class family. And growing up he was really smart. He went to Lafayette High School, graduated at the age of 16, getting to skip 2 grades because of how smart he was. And he hopped around to different colleges right after high school, but he didn't really stick with one, and he actually ended up dropping out, and he started working as a science teacher.
So at the school he was teaching at, he met Alan Greenspan, who was the CEO of Bear Stearns, which is a New York-based global investment bank. Alan ended up liking Epstein and his drive for success, and he offered him a job at Bear Stearns as a lower-level junior assistant, and this is where Epstein's career began to really take off.
So Epstein moved up pretty quickly in the corporate ladder at Bear Stearns, so much so he gained so much knowledge and background, so he actually started his own consulting firm in 1981, calling it Intercontinental Assets, Inc., which helped clients recover stolen money from fraudulent stockbrokers or lawyers. But interesting enough, his job, they were helping people who were embezzling, but he also was helping the people who were doing the embezzlement. So
he already started off his career to like a very fishy start. So apparently Epstein told some of his colleagues and friends that he was an intelligence agent acting as a spy for the government, but this has never been proven. Investigative journalist Vicky Ward said she was told by a former White House official that U.S. Florida District Attorney Alexander Acosta, who handled Epstein's criminal case in 2008, he said, "I was told Epstein belonged to intelligence and to leave it alone, and that Epstein was above his pay grade."
That's crazy. When doing the research, there was a couple people who claimed like that he told them, and these people believe him.
Yeah.
But it's interesting because he did travel a lot, and he's meeting with very important people. So I mean,
and no one really knew like what he did.
Right.
Like how, and I think we get into that next. Like how he got his money. Like nobody really understood. Nobody knew his net worth.
We did so much research, and we encourage you to do your own, please, by all means. We could not find a net worth. There's no number. Like people speculate, like of course he had all these homes and houses, but there's no number out there, and that's just weird. Like where is all this money?
Yeah. So by 1988, Epstein started a financial management firm called J. Epstein & Company. This company was formed, according to Epstein, to cater to clients with more than $1 billion in net worth. One of his best-known clients was Leslie Wexner, which is the CEO of Victoria's Secret. Epstein often attended Victoria's Secret fashion shows and hosted parties for the models at his New York City home.
So Epstein continued to succeed in his career, and in 1995 he became the director of Wexner Heritage Foundation, which was obviously owned by Leslie Wexner, and made millions of dollars. This is where he really started making those big money. Managing financial affairs, he quickly became a millionaire. So it's said.
Yeah.
And again, we really tried finding this man's net worth, but you really can't find it anywhere.
His lawyers stated that he was a billionaire with a net worth of over $1 billion, but a number of sources have questioned that and questioned the extent of his wealth and his status as a billionaire. But who knows? Like, you don't where all this guy's money is, if he had that much. And then there's obviously conspiracies, which we'll get into that, where we talk about how he got that money from human trafficking and everyone involved in that.
And that's maybe why we can't find it, or it's in multiple places, because he's literally running a sex ring.
Yeah, so. Dirty money. Okay, so we're going to get into kind of his background and the timeline. So just to state, he was a trash person. Like, he was accused by so many people of sexual misconduct. He was just trash. So in 2005, that's when he was first accused of sexual misconduct by a 14-year-old girl and her parents. They reported that he molested the girl in a mansion in Palm Beach, that her classmate, and she said her classmate had taken her there to give him a massage in exchange for money. And that was kind of a lot of people's stories, that they would go there to like give him a massage. He would give them money, and he'd have like girls lure other girls in. So this ended up, like, police wanted to form an investigation, and they looked through his trash and find a telephone message for Epstein with the girl's name on it, and that time matched the time that she told police that she was there. And they also find other girls' names and phone numbers on message slips in the trash. So they just find a bunch of stuff on Epstein. And then in October, investigators begin interviewing more girls, as well as Epstein's butler, who says that he had frequent visits from girls throughout the day. So they execute a search warrant at his home in Palm Beach after that, and then it just becomes like a full-on investigation.
So in May of 2016, police charged Epstein and two of his assistants with multiple counts of unlawful sex acts with minors, and the case was transferred over to the grand jury, and the grand jury returned with an indictment of one count of solicitation of prostitution. And Epstein's legal team tries to negotiate a deal with the state attorney's office and to give him no jail time.
Which is insane. Like,
no jail time.
Just disgusting.
But after pressure from the Palm Beach police chief, the FBI finally decided to open a federal investigation and dubbed it Operation Leap Year. And document lists the possible crimes as child prostitution. I mean, yeah, that girl was 14 years old. That's just absolutely disgusting. And by the end of 2006, the FBI began interviewing potential witnesses and victims from Florida, New York, and New Mexico who might have been involved.
And then they found 2 hidden cameras in his home. And it's also reported he had cameras in numerous places in all of his properties, recording sexual activity with underage girls by prominent people. So it was said that he would use that as like blackmail. So just...
It was like he was doing it to hold it over their head. Yeah. So if they ever like ratted on him, he would be, but I have your butt on tape, like literally. Oh my gosh.
So then the next year in 2007, the U.S. Attorney's Office wrote a 53-page indictment, but Epstein's legal team negotiated a plea deal. So he was able to avoid federal prosecution and was only sentenced to 18 months in prison, and he only served 13 of those months, which he was allowed to spend 6 days of the week at an office for 12 hours.
With a TV, food at his leisure.
So he didn't really get time.
No.
He was though registered a sex offender, which his lawyers tried to fight, but they couldn't fight that he was registered a sex offender. Okay, so in 2009, Epstein was released. He was supposed to be on probation and confined to his home in Palm Beach, but he made several trips to Manhattan, the Virgin Islands, because he had homes there. So, like, this guy, it's like the rules didn't apply to him. Like, he was just able to do whatever he wanted, like, whatever. Like, they kind of slapped his wrist and let him go about his day. But in September, at least a dozen civil lawsuits were filed by women who say that they were molested by Epstein when they were underage. So Epstein, he began the process of settling those out of court. And then in November, Alfredo Rodriguez, which was his butler, he tried selling a black book with information on women and clients that Epstein had.
When that happened, he was selling it to an undercover FBI agent, and he was arrested for that.
But it was weird because he was like went to federal prison and Epstein didn't even like. So he got more of a punishment than Epstein did, which is insane.
It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense just because he tried to sell like his black book. But apparently, that black book had like names of elite people that were his clients, so politicians,
addresses,
yeah, actors, like you name it.
We'll name a few.
Yeah,
we'll name a few. Rodriguez's wife, the Butler's wife, said he knew he had a lot of information, particularly on Prince Andrew from the royal family, which is insane.
And if you don't know who Prince Andrew is, it's the Queen's son.
The Queen's son. But he was named by the Butler during all of this, being involved in the sex scandal. And he said that he had the book as insurance to save his own life from Prince Andrew. Because I mean, who knows? The royal family, there's other conspiracies like around them too. Maybe how far would they be willing to go to like clear his name or have his name not involved at all?
Yeah.
But he died in 2015 of mesothelioma in prison.
That was the Butler who died.
The Butler. But very soon after he was in prison. So it just makes you wonder.
Yeah.
Makes you wonder.
It's just weird. So he died before anything could be outed. But that gets us into the flight logs, which the next year they obtained flight logs that show politicians, celebrities, academics, heads of states, world leaders that flew on Epstein's jet in the early 2000s. And among those, like in the flight log, were Bill Clinton. Bill Clinton,
who specifically rode this plane at least 27 times.
Yes.
27 times.
Sandy Berger, who was a former national security advisor. Andres Pastrana, who was the Colombian president. Alan Dershowitz, who was just a big-time lawyer. This doesn't say that these people were like involved in the sex ring, but it's just these people were obviously very close to him.
Right.
But
I mean, you can look at it from one angle. Okay, rich people know rich people, right? If you have millions, we're gonna have some contact.
Yeah.
But it just makes you wonder, like, if these people were close and they had a relationship, like, how could they have not known?
Yeah, and how much did they know? How much did they keep a secret from this guy? Like it just makes this guy's life, like he was involved in like this he got accused by several people of like being a molester, and like how could you in your be friends with this person?
No.
It's insane.
And then, mind you, some of these people, like Bill Clinton, they have their own foundations. So you're raising your own money, but then you're involved in a sex scandal?
Yeah.
What?
It's crazy. And then, so we're actually going to insert a clip from Prince Andrew's interview, which it's because of this interview that he kind of went into hiding.
Yeah. He went off the grid.
Yeah. He kind of just treats it like so casually when they mention, I don't know, I forgot what the words were that he said, but you'll see it. When he's asked about Epstein, and he kind of just off the grid went into hiding.
It's very cavalier, like he's just like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And you see it in the interviewer's face. She's like, he's you mean a pedophile?
Yeah.
You mean a sex criminal? Like, it's crazy.
It's insane.
Do I regret the fact that he has quite obviously conducted himself in a manner unbecoming? Yes.
Unbecoming? He was a sex offender.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm being polite in the sense that he was a sex offender. But no. Was I right in having him as a friend at the time? And bearing in mind this was some years before he was accused of being...
All right, so in 2011, 2 of Epstein's victims accused the government of violating their rights by failing to notify them about the plea deal that we mentioned before, that he only served like 18 months and keeping it a secret. They wanted the plea deal invalidated, and they accused federal prosecutors of deceiving them with false notification letters. And then in November, which this was a big win, Epstein had to register in New York as the highest and most dangerous level 3 status, which meant he was a high risk of repeat offense and threat to the public safety. So the just highest level to register as a sex offender, which thank goodness, because he was just
it still doesn't make sense to me how he's on the streets. You're
Yeah.
on the streets as a high risk of repeat offense and threat to public safety. You're a threat to public safety.
But you're just free to roam,
But
like do whatever you want, have millions of dollars. Don't know where it comes from, but cool.
But in 2012, Epstein undertakes a public relation campaign to counter the bad press for his sexual exploit, which of course, like, if you have the money, then you're going to hire like an Olivia Pope, if you will. So his foundation ended up donating millions of dollars to scientific research and sponsors of global conferences on ways to achieve world peace and save the planet, which is just like, it's so annoying. It's so annoying.
It's like, you can't cover what you did, what you put people through, like all of his victims that came out, like just trying to cover it by good press. No, like it's just, you're horrible.
It's disgusting.
Yeah. So in 2015, this woman named Virginia Roberts filed court papers in Florida claiming she was forced by Epstein to have sex with Prince Andrews and Alan Dershowitz, which we mentioned before. They all denied her claims, but she provided photos of her with the prince and Epstein's close associate, Ghislaine Maxwell, which I think is her name. And apparently Maxwell was Epstein's madam. And a madam is a British woman, usually older, who manages a brothel, escort service, or some form of prostitution for profit. So it's said that she was kind of with Epstein in this.
She was bringing in the girls basically to him, which that's the low. That's lower than low. Like, I feel like as women, you should feel safe. You know what I'm saying? Like,
without another, because that's how, like, when you see a guy in the street, you're kind of more like, you know,
off-putting, or like, exactly.
Yeah.
But when you see a woman, like, you're supposed to feel supported.
Yeah.
So I can't imagine how these girls must have felt, thinking that, I don't know, who knows what she was telling them anyways to get them to him. But it's just,
it's really
sickening.
Sad. Yeah, it's horrible. So Robert sues Maxwell, saying she defamed her in public statements in the media, and this lawsuit was kind of viewed as a vessel for Epstein's victims to expose the scope of his crimes. So, like, she spoke out, so then other people started speaking out, and then several lawsuits were filed against, that year were filed against Epstein and Maxwell, that they operated, saying that they operated an international sex trafficking operation. So because of her, more people spoke out, more people kind of exposed their truth, and then it ended. The Roberts settles a lawsuit with Maxwell for an undisclosed amount.
So today, you cannot find Maxwell anywhere. Ghislaine Maxwell, it is impossible to find her. So much so that a Manhattan judge has taken the rare step of allowing her to be served from a new law site. And this has literally never been done by email, according to a federal court filing Friday.
Yeah, so they don't know where she is. She kind of fell off the face of the earth because she's just as guilty as Epstein in all of this. She worked with him. She brought in the girls. She would basically probably get like a just really big sentencing. So she just kind of, nobody knows where she is. Nobody could find her. So in 2016, a lawsuit is filed in Manhattan by a woman claiming she was raped by he was the presidential candidate, Donald Trump, at a party in Epstein's mansion. And like we said, like, there were several elite people, politicians involved in this. We don't know how involved they were. We don't know how true these stories are. There's a lot that's kind of up in the air. So the woman, Katie Johnson, she backed out of press conferences just days before his election, saying she had been threatened and was fearful. So she later completely drops the lawsuit. So she went into this, like, you know, saying she was raped, blah, blah, and then later just drops it, just, like, whatever.
Sketchy.
So sketchy. And, like, that's just a scary position to be in, because these people are so powerful. Like, you don't think you're going to win these things, because who knows who she was getting threatened by, what they were saying.
And the amount of money these people have to use, literally at anything.
Yeah.
Like, it's just...
It's scary. So in February, in 2017, Trump nominates former Miami federal prosecutor Acosta as U.S. Secretary of Labor, and Acosta was the one who approved the plea deal for Epstein. So that's kind of fishy in itself how involved they were with each other. Okay, so this is where stuff starts to get kind of fishy. So in 2019, Epstein was arrested on charges of sex trafficking and conspiracy to engage in sex trafficking. He was denied bail ahead of his trial. So he was in jail, and then a couple weeks later, in August, he was found unresponsive in his cell at 6:30 a.m. Efforts to revive him failed, so he was declared dead, and his death was ruled an apparent suicide.
But there's a few things that we should talk about before we get into his death and his autopsy. Just 6 days prior to his actual death, some prison guards found him unconscious in his cell, and they found marks around his neck. So they first thought, and what Jeffrey claimed was that he was attacked by a cellmate. But for whatever reason, the prison guards thought this was a suicide attempt, so he was put on suicide watch. But only after 6 days, he was taken off suicide watch. And his cellmate was taken out of his room.
So the night that he was found dead, there were 2 guards on duty. Their names I have here. It was Michael Thomas and Tova Noel. So they were, because he was on suicide watch, they were supposed to check on him every 30 minutes. They actually did not check on him for, over 8 hours? Yeah.
5 hours, 6 hours, yeah.
Yeah, his cell was unobserved for 8 hours before he was found dead. The 2 guards instead were on their computers doing personal stuff. Fell asleep for 2 hours. This was all kind of caught on surveillance video. So they did not check on him. They don't know what was going on.
And apparently, if you do some research, now not every site said this, but a lot that we found, that the tapes facing his jail cell just so happened to either malfunction or it's missing.
Or it was unclear. Or they couldn't use it. So his brother, I think it's Mark, actually doesn't believe that he killed himself either. So they hired, his family hired their own person to do an autopsy. So when the autopsy was performed by the doctor that the family hired, which is Michael Baden, so he was an independent pathologist hired by the Epstein estate. He said that Epstein experienced a number of injuries, among them a broken bone in his neck, that are extremely unusual in suicidal hangings and could occur much more commonly in homicidal strangulation.
It was the hyoid bone that was broken, yeah.
So he believes, the doctor that the family hired believes that his injuries are more common with people who got strangled than people who hang themselves. And they said that he hung himself with a sheet, right?
A sheet or a coat. We'll insert a picture. We'll find one here. But the way it's set up, there's no way.
And then there was no blood found on the coat or something like that. There was just a bunch of iffiness around the crime scene, which is why the family hired someone to do their own autopsy, because they really didn't believe that he killed himself.
We don't know the position of Epstein's body when he was found dead.
That's correct.
And that's a crucial question.
It's a very big question.
Because the marks on the neck is not at all typical for a hanging suicide. A hanging suicide, 90% of the time, there are no fractures. Maybe 10%, 15%, there could be a hyoid or a thyroid fracture.
Right.
You don't have 3 fractures with the weight of the body on the ligature. You have to have a lot more pressure by ligature or by hands to get those fractures.
So we're getting into the conspiracies now, with the doctor not thinking that he committed suicide, and also Dr. Michael Baden, I don't know. He said that Epstein had contusions on both of his wrists, an abrasion on his left forearm, and deep muscle hemorrhaging on his left shoulder. So his brother, Mark, suggested that he was handcuffed and he struggled.
Absolutely.
He also claimed that Epstein told him that his life was in danger. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of fishy too. And then Raid Weingarten, which is Epstein's defense attorney, also had doubts that Epstein killed himself. He met with him shortly before his death and said, and this is a quote, "We did not see a despairing, despondent, suicidal person."
And Bashar al-Assad, which is a Syrian leader, said, Epstein was killed several weeks ago. He was killed because he knew a lot of vital secrets connected with very important people in the British and American regimes and possible other countries as well. Which makes sense because of who he knew. Yeah. And again, not just here, like internationally. So
who knew when he went to stand trial, like who he was going to out, like what he was going to say, whose careers he was going to ruin, like who knew? So there was a lot of powerful people who were going to lose a lot by him speaking out.
Right. So it's speculated that because of his connection with all these wealthy people, that they also could be involved with these sex crimes, and they wanted to silence him because they didn't want to be outed, obviously. So after his death, there's this whole hashtag that began to start, hashtag Trump body count and hashtag Clinton body count, which is another whole conspiracy in itself, which is crazy if you research it. And let us know if you want us to do a video, because it'd probably be cool to do. But it's saying that there's currently a lot of people, over I think 30 people, who were connected to the Clintons some way that just so happened to die.
Mysteriously. Like gunshots to the head. There was one guy who died in a plane crash, but he had a gunshot.
Had suicides, like a bunch of ruled as suicides. Like, it doesn't make any sense.
So, yeah, this was trending, like people believing that the Clintons or the Trumps had him killed because of how involved they were with him. And a lot of people believe that. There was so many polls where more people believed that Epstein was killed and not that he committed suicide. Yeah. This was like hours after his death. I mean, you guys have seen the memes. Epstein didn't kill himself. Like, there are so... Like, this isn't just like a small conspiracy theory. Like, there are so many people who actually like really believe...
firmly believe this.
Yeah, that he was killed because of who he knew, who he was, whatever was in the
how
black
he
book.
died.
Yeah. So that gets into the personal relationships that he had with people. Having the influence that he did, he knew a lot of influential people, and we've mentioned it. So he had an address book with Bill Clinton, Donald Trump, Alec Baldwin, Ted Kennedy, Courtney Love, Prince Andrew, Jeff Bezos, which is the Amazon owner. So like we said, this doesn't mean that these people were involved with the human trafficking or what he did. But it's just interesting to point out that they were close to him, that they knew him, and it just makes you think how much
they knew.
Yeah, what was behind closed doors. These people who are so powerful, who we see in the media all the time, like how much did they know about this person? How much were they hiding?
And how far does it go? Yeah. That's something else I want to know, like how deep this goes. It's really scary when you think about it.
It is really scary.
So if you look at Epstein's background and how much money, like, he was generous, with his money. He actually donated $139,000 to the U.S. Democratic Party. Not only that, but also $18,000 to the U.S. Republican Party. If that doesn't tell you something, like...
And it's just scary in general how, like, these people with money and how these, like, powerful people who are so corrupt, how they could just, like, donate so much to these parties and like help, I don't know, whoever they want to come up. And it's just like, money really is power. It's sad to say, but it's true.
It is.
These corrupt people could just, you don't know who they're...
It's scary.
Yeah.
You don't know who you're voting for.
Yeah.
You really don't know.
It's just, there's so much.
So there's two main schools of thought as far as conspiracies go. One being that he's actually still alive, which is a curious one. That there's this whole conspiracy around that because he had so much money and the people he's involved with, they have so much money, they like kind of pre-plan, like, hey, you're gonna take the fall for this, and just we'll put you in Idaho,
out of the country,
in a mountain, and that's where you'll live the rest of your life. So, or he's in Jerusalem, or just weird conspiracy that he's still alive, and a lot of people are actually involved, so that they wouldn't be able to take the fall.
Yeah.
Or,
the other conspiracy was that someone was paid to kill him. because he was going to give names of very powerful and influential people, like we mentioned before. So there's the conspiracy that the Clintons killed him, that the Trumps killed him. So who knows? We would love to know what you think. I mean, there's just so much behind this that makes you believe that it wasn't a suicide, especially when his family doesn't think it was a suicide. So just let us know. What do you think? Do you think all these influential people are involved in this huge, just human trafficking sex ring? And just to mention, like, it is a thing that happens, and it's just crazy how it's not, like, it's in your own country. Like, we don't think
it happens
the USA, here. We don't think Florida, like, hey, it's not going to happen, but it does, and it happens right in front of your eyes. So there are, I could link below, like, organizations that help victims that you could check out. There's actually a coffee shop in Sanford. It's called Palette, and they work with Love Missions, and they have safe houses and stuff and help people who are victims of human trafficking. So there's a lot of ways you can help because this is a thing that happens, and it's really sad. I know we're talking about, like, conspiracies and stuff, but, like, it is
this
a very
is real.
serious, a very serious problem. So definitely check out these organizations, or even buying a cup of coffee will
donate,
help someone.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I'll link those below. But yeah, just, like, let us know what you think. Let us know.
It's curious though, because I feel like when a lot of people hear the word conspiracy, they're like, oh, okay, that's crazy. But I feel like okay, the moon landing, that conspiracy, JFK. You know, some people really do believe that Oswald was acting alone.
Yeah.
But with this one, I just feel like people are like, okay, come on,
There's
dude.
so much information out there. It's just crazy.
What do you think?
Like, yeah, I mean,
Which one? What do you think?
I don't know about, like, because he attempted suicide before, it is possible that he killed himself.
And that's another thing, right?
Like,
could be possible.
It's very, I guess you could say, practical. Like, it's possible that he did it because he attempted it. It's possible.
Right.
But just with all of these people involved with him, just thinking that they didn't know, that to me is so curious. Like, how can you go on someone's jet 27 times and not know the things that they were up to? Like, you had to know. And I hope that all these people get outed and, like...
No, I do. Every single last one of them. All of them. Oh my gosh.
It's just...
But I think that would be a scary day, because I feel like there'd be a lot of people who America loves.
Oh, yeah.
And you don't even know who they are.
You don't know people, because we see these people on social media. We think they're cool to follow, and, like, you know, but you don't know these people.
No.
You don't know these famous people. You don't know what they're up to. So yeah, just let us know.
Tell us what you guys think. Comment down below. If you haven't already, subscribe. And as time goes on, I'm sure, I hope, more will come out.
Yeah.
So let us know also if you guys want us to give you updates. We can do, like, quick little updates, news updates before we actually get into the segment. So let us know, because I think more will come out.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
Who knows? But
especially if they finally find the girl who was working with him,
right?
Maxwell, or whatever. So yeah, guys. All right, that's the end of our video. So see you in the next one.